Welcome back, everybody, to The Practical Woodsman. I'm Rut, the creator and host of The Practical Woodsman. That's right. It's my incredible genius which has brought this all into existence. Scientists and philosophers everywhere studying my noggin, try to figure out how it works and harness its powers. Do you like these old storm lamps? These Feurerhand storm lamps? Dietz is another good storm lamp maker. I love them. But I'll tell you what, when you're on foot and you're traveling large distances in the backcountry, as wonderful as they are, they're also a pretty big hassle. And so I've come across a lamp, a modern day lamp that is not, well, it's less heavy and less bulky than these Feuerhand storm lanterns, which I love. But this is just a lot of trouble because you can't travel with the fuel in there. So you got to empty out the fuel each time you get done using her. You got to figure out a nice way to latch that onto the back of your pack. And of course, that thing bounces all over God's green earth while you're going up and down the mountains, down into the hollers and that sort of thing. And so they create some difficulty. There's pleasure that comes along with that, but creates a lot of difficulty. So there's this lamp, this rechargeable lamp. It's got a lot of wonderful qualities, and I got to make a little DIY adjustment to one here that I just got today. So I thought I'd bring you all along with me. Before we get started on that, we got to do the musical introduction to get us all in the mood. Winkety winkety. So don't go nowhere. When we come back, we'll be talking about this lamp right here, and I'll show you my fix for a problem that it has. Don't go nowhere.
Put a camp up right here.
Before we really get into the meat and taters of all this, if you're here for the very first time, welcome. And I just want to let you all know that we do have an online community over at thepracticalwoodsman.locals, LOCALS.com, or you can download the locals.com app and then just search for The Practical Woodsman within. I do Saturday live streams when I'm able. Ain't been a whole lot of Saturday live streams here lately, but life has just been busy. I plan to get back to them as soon as possible. But think about joining us over there on our online community. Free speech platform. Share anything you want that's legal or talk about anything you want. Also, while we're talking about these sorts of things, just hit the subscribe button. That little bell there to remind you when I put up new episodes and that sort of thing, and love to have you. All right, back to these lanterns, these lamps. I love them. In my gear, so in my bug out bags, or my go bags as some people call them, when I'm going on long excursions in the woods, in all my approaches to self-sufficiency, I always include several different light sources. So I always pack a flashlight with plenty of throw, and I pack a dedicated lantern or a lamp. And also I usually pack a Fancy-Pansy headlamp for work around camp or work where my hands need to be free. And I love these Feurerhand lanterns. They're, of course, a classic. They'll last forever. They're dependable. It's just that traveling with that fuel, what I do when I do travel with these is each morning after I've used it, I usually like to run it most of the night. But in the morning, what I'll do is I'll unscrew the fuel tank and I'll pour the remaining fuel back into the bottle. Let me show you that. All right, so this is the bottle I usually carry my lamp oil in. You can tell because it says lamp oil. And what I would do when I'm traveling with an oil lantern like this, and you don't really want to travel on foot with like a cheap version of one of these, like a Walmart lantern. You could depend on the Feurerhands to hold up to a little bit of abuse, but not so much with the cheap Chinese knockoffs or the Walmart knockoffs that only cost $10. So if you're going to get an oil storm lantern like this, look into Dietz or look into Feurerhand. I think Feurerhands are a little bit harder to get, and the Dietz are just as much quality as these Feurerhands. But anyway, the way that I travel with them is I carry my fuel in an old used Evan Williams bourbon travel bottle. It's plastic. And when I finish drinking that booze, I pour in my lamp oil there, and I make sure that that's well labeled so nobody thinks that's vodka around camp and takes a big, gigantic swig of it. So that's how I carry my oil. When I get into camp, I fill the reservoir on my oil lantern. I burn it for as long as I want to, and then the next morning, I unscrew the fuel reservoir, and I pour all that fuel back into the bottle for travel. That's how I normally do that. And like I said, it's doable, but it creates some problems. Like you'll have that dangling on the outside of your pack somehow, and it'll be beating and banging around, and it's just a hassle, you know. And every time you throw your pack off your shoulders, you can't just let your pack just tumble to the ground. If you're exhausted, you have to gently lower it down to the ground so you don't end up breaking the glass on these lamps. A lot of considerations with something like that, and man, they created some really nice ambiance around camp. But I have come across a modern day alternative to these old storm lanterns. If you ain't opposed to such a thing, I know a lot of folks think that if your gear don't look like it come out of the 18th century, then it ain't worth having. I'm the practical woodsman. I'm not the cosplay woodsman. I'm the practical woodsman. And when modern day technology and gear offers an advantage out in the woods at not a great cost of weight or space, I take those sorts of things seriously. And that brings me to this lantern here. I'm going to show you right now this lantern on Amazon, where they sent it to me. And I've got several of these. Let me show you this. Well, I don't want to give away my spiel here too early. But anyway, here's the lamp. I got several of them. And here it is on Amazon. That's what it looks like there. That's how much it's going for at the current date. You say, well, is that a fair price? I think it's a very fair price. As far as travel lanterns go, modern day rechargeable lanterns go, this right here is my favorite by far. As you can see, it's much smaller in size. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. They almost look the same. But I think that that's an optical illusion there with that strap. You see, this lantern is much more compact. This modern day lantern is much more compact. It's just a tube, and it comes with a flashlight and the lantern portion itself. Here's your USB-C recharge port, and also there's a regular USB there in case you want to use that as a power bank. You get desperate, you need some juice for your phone, maybe you don't mind stealing it from the lantern, and so you can do that. Let me go ahead and turn this on for you. One of the really great aspects of this modern lantern is that it mimics the light put off by an orange flame perfectly. It don't flicker or anything like that. I don't like those sorts of gimmicks. But the light itself, the quality of the light itself, let's see if we can see that. You see how orange that is? It comes with that nice orange light. It comes with I think that's bright white. And then there's daylight right there. So it comes with 3 different types of light. Well, of course, you got your emergency SOS there too. The dial at the top is, you just press it and that turns the light on, and then you can cycle through. Now, if you crank that, you see that the light gets much, much brighter. With the light at its highest intensity, you might get 3 hours of use out of it, maybe. Now, if you crank that dial way down so that you're on the lowest setting there, I've tested this several times with several different versions of this same lamp or the same lantern. And I've run it all night long, at least 9-10 hours every night for 6 nights, and it still had plenty of juice. Plenty of juice. I could have gone for another 6 nights. So you just can't beat the capacity of that battery when you've got that on its lowest setting. Now, here's another interesting thing. If you want to hang that up in your shelter or something, these panels here that hold the lights, they do fold out. Now, I never use that. I don't like to loosen those up or risk breaking them off somehow. But the lantern does do that. And so you can hang that from the top of your shelter and get your light directed directly down. I don't know why anybody would need that much light directed straight down in the middle of the dark woods, in the middle of a dark shelter, but I just use it like this. Now here's another interesting thing. So let's turn that lamp or lantern light off. There you go. Now if you double click that button real quick here at the top, you get a flashlight. There's a flashlight at the bottom. And I think that's pretty nifty. Now I wouldn't use this as my primary handheld flashlight. It would be a great backup though. Double click, turns it off. No, primarily what I use this for is the lantern part of it. And let me turn the lights out here so we can get, hopefully we can communicate the true tone of this light to the camera. So let me turn off the light and then I'll cycle through those lights there. All right, hopefully this will help us show off the true nature of that light there. See that down in my secondary camera? We'll hold that up for the primary camera. You see how beautiful orange that is. Now, I'll tell you what, if you're used to using one of these types of lamps, and then you go out or you start using this lamp on that setting, when your mind is on other things like taking care of the fire or something like that, and you turn around and you go to grab this lamp, your brain will tell you, don't touch the lamp itself, just touch the handle because that's going to be hot. That's how convincing a light this is as far as creating the same tone of color as natural lantern or candlelight even. Your brain says, if you're used to using these types of lanterns, well, you know that when you go to pick it up, you don't just grab it because it'll melt the skin right off your bones there. So you're very careful usually about how you grab the handle and how you handle that. Your brain says to be careful. Well, this lantern, the light of it, the nature of that light is so beautiful and so natural. It actually contributes, even though it's modern day technology and everything, running off batteries. It's such a compliment to the natural woods, that type of light right there. It doesn't disturb it. It's not like having a halogen bulb or something around camp. You know, it's a very pleasant light. I love that light right there. Let me turn on the lights. I'll show you these other two lamps I got because we want to talk about the problem that this design inherently has for people who do the sorts of things that I'm interested in and the things that I'm sure you're interested in too. And I'll show you the fix for that. So a lot of you might have already figured out what the primary issue is with this lamp as far as for people who are interested in throwing it into a bug out bag or going on a deep woods excursion over many miles, over many nights. That thing in your pack is going to get knocked around and beat up and all sorts of things. And it's unfortunate that the button used to control its on and off and its intensity and all that is so exposed like that. There's no covering for that. That means it's almost impossible to load that in a backpack and not arrive at camp and have your battery completely dead because it's been on all day long in your pack. By the way, I just want to show you this other end here. You can see the indicator lights there. That's battery power. And I think even after like 3 or 4 nights, 5 nights of straight use all night long, the battery indicator has only lessened by 1 dot there. So potentially, this thing would run without needing a recharge all night long for almost a daggum month. Yeah, you just can't beat that. You can't beat that with one of these little tiny, I shouldn't say tiny. What I mean is like these little puck style lamps and lanterns, which are wonderful, but they do not have the life that these have. And you know, yeah, you're taking a little bit of weight there, but you ain't taking as much weight or bulk as you would be with a Feurerhand lantern, and most people would be willing to carry that. So really a wonderful lantern here. Just that problem there at the top is the only real issue. So how do we fix that? Well, let me show you my other lanterns here. Here's one, it's the same style, and what I did was I took a spice, I took the lid off of a Old Spice bottle, and I super glued that on there. This thing is 3 or 4 years old, and I've taken it out, it's taken a beating. I wouldn't repeat that spice lid trick, because what happens is it has a lid on there, you know, like spice bottles do. And you lift that lid, that's how I originally had it. You'd lift that lid and then you could access the button. The problem is that with repeated use, that lid gets brittle and it breaks off. So I don't like the lid idea. Now you can see it's got no cap to the lid there. And again, if that's in your backpack, because it's not covered, it could end up getting pressed and then you're out of luck. You get into camp and batteries are all dead. So not a great solution, that spice lid thing. So I come up with a solution that I'm pretty fond of. So let me show you this other lantern that I have it's the exact twin of this. And I like to call this my milk jug lantern. Can you see why? Those of y'all living here in the United States probably get a kick out of that. It looks like a milk jug. Our milk jugs are white, and then depending on the type of milk you're getting, if it's skim or regular fat milk, you'll get a different colored lids. This is the color of the lid that indicates that you're buying whole milk here in the United States. So here you go, my milk jug Woodsman's lantern, and I love it. This thing also is 3 or 4 years old. It's my favorite, and the reason why I call it my milk jug lantern, obviously, is because to cover that button, I cut off the top of a milk jug. And so I have done that here. This is the way our jugs look like, whole vitamin D milk jugs, red cap. And what I've already done, I've started to do this earlier and I thought, well, I might as well make a video of this and share this with everybody, is I cut the top off the milk jug. And then I trimmed that down with scissors, the bottom part here, because what I want that to do is I want to put some super glue around the inside of this. And then when I press that down, that'll give me my cover that will protect that. And no matter how filled up my pack gets or anything like that. And I'll tell you, this works so much better than that spice kit or that spice bottle lid, because when you cut it down, it fans out. When you press it down across the top of that, it fans out so that the super glue makes a really good bond there against the plastic of the light. And you know, what's so beautiful about that is you say, well, what if I lose the lid? Well, if you lose the lid, you've still got milk at home. So just remember to steal the lid off of that old milk jug before it goes in the trash. So there's no limit, there's no difficulty in getting a replacement lid for the top of my milk jug lantern if I want to. So we're going to do that now here. Like I said, I've already cut off another top of a milk jug, and we're going to adhere it to this new lamp that just arrived today. And I thought I would just bring you guys along. I know, most exciting thing you could be doing on a Friday night. So I got some super glue here. I don't want to put the super glue on the top of the bottle. I want to put the super glue here on the inside of this. Whoop, there we go. Gotta be careful. And you just want to put dots around that thing when you're working with super glue and this sort of thing, when you want a really good bond, you don't just throw super glue everywhere. You just put in little dots around the inside lip of that thing. And now it's going to go on here. And I'll tell you why that'll never come off. It fixes to that, the two plastics with that super glue fix onto that bottle so tight that I don't foresee it ever coming off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that lid off so I can make sure that oxygen and stuff can get down there to the bottom of that. There we go. And we hold that on there real tight for a little bit. Three weeks later, it's wanting to pop up a little bit. Let's hold it down there real tight. Make sure it's nice and tight on there. You don't want it bouncing around inside your pack and getting knocked loose while you're traveling. But once you get a nice bond between that thin plastic of that old milk bottle and the body of this lantern, that'll stay there for probably the life of the lantern. What do you think about that? Such a beautiful, beautiful light. Nice and compact. You can run it all night long like a night light. It's not difficult or too bulky to carry even 100 miles out in the woods. So it's a wonderful go bag or bug out bag, emergency bag option for you and everybody else in the family. And by the way, I'm not getting paid for anything by these people. This is just one of my favorite lanterns. And each of these lanterns I showed you here tonight are of a different manufacturer. You know, it's one of those Chinese things. Yeah, and I'm not even sure that the other two even exist anymore. But I'll share a link to this one here so that you can get a hold of your own. And you might be able to find better deals depending on who you get yours from. All right, folks. Well, there we go. I got a brand new milk jug lantern. I love these lanterns. They're just a wonderful, wonderful design. And you know, I've had these other two I've had for many years now. So I can attest to the fact that if you treat them right, they'll last a long, long time. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little video here and that it helps some of you out there find exactly what you're looking for as far as the perfect, modern, rechargeable lantern that you can get on the market. Thanks for joining me. This is again Rut with the Practical Woodsman. Hit that subscribe button, hit like, share it with your friends, and I'll tell you another thing. Come back for the next episode too.